Hey, welcome to Warriors and Wildmen. Rich Whitmer here. Our co-host Doug Giles is not here because he's playing hooky fishing in Miami. And from the pictures on Instagram, he is killing it. He is slaying the fish out there. It looks awesome. I'm a little bit jealous, but here we are. And Doug's not here today, but a great friend of mine is here, Pastor Tom Reynard from Zion Church in Yuma. Welcome, Pastor Tom.
Good to be here, Rich. Good to be here.
Yeah, if you did not listen to the last podcast, you need to go back and listen to it. It's on mission. We're going to pick up and talk about missions. Tom is a great missionary. We've been friends for how many years?
Oh, God. Well, I know we met in 2001 as far as kind of.
So over 20 years.
Yeah,
We've been friends. And I don't even know how many countries we've been in together.
You know, I know we've been.
1, 2, 3.
Burma, Russia.
Thailand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think those 3, but multiple times.
Yeah.
On those 3. Tom took me on my
I wouldn't
first
go
trip.
to Mexico with you, though, bro.
Yeah, we've been to Mexico with John.
I'd be
but
afraid.
don't hold that against us. But we've been around the world. How many countries have you been to?
I don't know, bro. I'm not
A lot more
Quite a
than
few.
me.
Quite a few, yeah. I mean, just because I'm a lot older than you, too.
No, you're not that much older than me. You've been to a lot more. I've gone to a lot of countries multiple times. Yeah.
I've been to a lot of places.
40?
I don't think that many. Maybe 30. Countries I don't even think about sometimes because I've forgotten. But yeah, maybe 30 countries.
Okay, yeah.
It's always a great experience. And
yeah, we'll talk about some funny stories too, because we need to tell some funny stories. Because yeah, I was thinking about. We were just talking about resting and taking a break. I know. So this guy told me one time, super cool guy, great guy, good heart and everything. And he came and told me, the Lord told me, he's from Brazil. He said, with a translator, the Lord told me that I'm supposed to travel with you everywhere you go this year. And I said, you probably want to double check with the Lord and make sure that's who was telling you that. And he goes, no, I have my own money. I'll pay my own way. I want to go and just serve and just be with you. I said, I'm not worried about the money. You need to ask the Lord if you're sure. He's like, oh yeah. I said, okay, when do you want to start? He said, well, when are you leaving? I said, Tuesday. And he said, well, I can't go on Tuesday. He said, I'm aware of that. And I said, well, these are the trips. When do you want to jump in? And he said, well, I'll go with you to the Philippines. I said, okay, in the Philippines, I'm going to do 2 islands, 3 cities, 5 conferences. And I said, and that'll be the first 11 days. And I said, and then I'm going to jump over to Indonesia and I'm going to do 2 islands and 3 conferences. And I said, maybe you should just try on the first trip, just try out the first part. He said, yeah, I'll do that. And so we had to bring a translator and all that. It was great. So we went, we did the ministry. It was full speed, 900 miles an hour. He wanted to talk about some different stuff. We were there talking about strategy, and I was talking to him, explaining it. It was, 1 in the morning or something. And I'm telling him, and the translator's not translating him. I look at him, and the translator's literally just passed out. He's done. I said, see you in the morning. So did the thing. So on the last day of the conference in the Philippines, I was leaving, and he was the main speaker for the last 2 main sessions, and there were some other sessions. And so I left. I was like, they will take care of you, everything you need, boom, 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 get you to the airport. Great. I took off, boom, I'm gone. Indonesia. They get a hold of me that night and they said, hey, we never saw him. I said, what do you mean? They said he wouldn't answer his phone. He stayed in his room and slept all day. He wouldn't even come out. And then he flew, and then he never asked me to go on a trip again. I don't know what he thought we were doing, Tom.
I know. I think, people don't know, when you go on these trips, there's really not a lot of downtime to begin with. And then even the time that we are going, hotels are like four-star hotels,
Although I did break from that tradition.
Did you?
I started staying in nicer places.
Yeah, and
Our church
rightfully
paid
so.
for nicer hotels, and I found that if I
When
stayed in
they're
a nicer
there.
hotel, if you can.
If
I'm not a martyr without a cause, if you have to do. But I started staying in nicer hotels, and I found that if I had clean food and air conditioning, that I could work way longer hours, and I rested way better, and you're more effective. You didn't get the martyr factor of showing everybody where you get to stay. Because I did stay in a place in Indonesia once that was $6 per night. That included your room and 3 meals a day. Let me tell you what it did not include. It did not include sheets or blankets, pillowcases. Did not include toilet paper, towels, air conditioning, or fans. But it did include a window that you could open so a breeze could come in. But of course, that was to the alley that was backed up to the bar, and everybody peed in the alley. And so it also did include bugs. And
Got a deal.
yeah, and so the food, the only thing I could recognize was the rice. And so I know how you are. This guy right here, guys, he takes peanut butter and crackers in his suitcase.
I'm ready, man.
'cause
I've
he's
been on
smart.
I've been on a lot of trips. I'm not going to starve to death.
Tom, I didn't eat other than a little bit of rice twice a day for 4 days. There was no air conditioning. And then people were like, I've been to Florida. Cute. You should try the equator.
Oh.
So it was blazing hot,
Yeah.
like 90-something% humidity. It was miserable. And so they asked me, Pastor, what would you like to do for lunch? I said, you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to go see the volcano. Okay, let's go, because there's an active volcano there. Of course, you drive up to it, right? So we get in the car and we drive over there, and they say, come on, let's go walk. And I would tell them, I'll wait here, leave the car running. The reason I said it is because I would ride in the AC, and they would walk to the volcano, and I would lay in there for another 30 minutes just sleeping and sleep in the car on the way back. So I'd get like 45 minutes of sleep, right? And the next day they said, hey, what do you want to do for lunch? And I said, I'd really like to go to the volcano. And they couldn't figure it out. They were like, okay, this guy really likes the volcano. They thought I was weird, but I was hot. And so when I got out of there the next year that they wanted me to come back, I started searching for a hotel. And I found a Sheraton hotel 20 minutes from there with a golf course. And I asked him, I said, why didn't you tell me about this hotel? I pay for my own hotel. They don't pay for it.
Mhm.
You know what their answer was? The other one was closer.
Oh, yeah. I ran into that in India.
I prayed and cried at night and asked the Lord, whatever I did, I'm sorry. I'll stop doing it. Get me out of here.
Yeah, I did that in India. There was a place we stayed. It was called the Himalayan Inn, and it was beautiful, really nice. Looked like some kind of a European type of. You look out and you look down on the mountains. It was up in the Himalaya mountains, and anyway, we went there the last time Pastor Joe, and I went there. The guy said, "Hey, what do you think about there's a little hotel right close to where I live." He said, it used to be an orphanage. He said, but they've converted it into a hotel. I said, hey, dude, we're with you. Tell us what you want us to do. So we stayed there, went in. The mattresses were like cooler pads. They were like these straw, and they looked like they had probably been there since the orphanage started.
Right,
50
they were
years.
from the orphanage.
Yeah, and it was the worst. And there was no heat. The light would go out. Whatever, it would go off because it was on some kind of a system where the power would go off at a certain time. And man, I don't want to complain, but the thing was, there was a hotel just down the road, but this one was closer. I remember I got up in the middle of the night. It was so cold. Got up and I went and I opened my bag and I'm trying to get some socks because I'm freezing, man. I'm putting socks on. I opened the bag and this roach,
Dude.
come crawling over the back of the bag and jumped into my bag. And I was so cold and I was so miserable. And I had the light on my phone. I closed the bag and I zipped it up and I said, I will kill you tomorrow. Went to bed. It was miserable. And a lot of it, because probably they just think that this is just life.
Well, they're used to that.
They're used to it.
Right. That's why I would always book my own hotel. Then they don't have to feel bad. They did put me in a hotel in Davao one time, and I went in there, and there was clearly a blood splatter all over the wall that had been painted over. And I was like, nah, I can't do this. So I called the people I was with. I said, pack your stuff. We're going. And when we got in the lobby, they're like, thank you so much. So I told the guy, take me to a hotel. One that's better than this one. And he took me to a hotel. They said, sorry, we don't have any rooms. I said, you trying to tell me this whole hotel's full? They said, well, the floors that we have open are. And I said, well, open another floor. And he said, no, we can't. Because I said, well, I'll pay for the rooms. Open the floor. It wasn't big and it's not expensive. But we got him to open it up and it had air conditioning, and it was clean, and you can survive there,
Sure.
And I also remember they took us to a hotel one time, me and one of my guys, Luke, and this other pastor from Philippines, and they took us to this hotel, and they said, we got your rooms for you. It's really nice, blah, blah, blah. We went there. It's like, okay, whatever. It looks like 2-star, but whatevs. And we get to the room and open the door, and to my horror, there are 3 single beds in a row in that room, and I'm thinking, there's no way this is happening right now. They go, there you go, guys. So it's me and Luke and this other guy sharing this room. And I told Luke, you're in the middle bed. And I threw my stuff by the wall. And I literally laid on the bed and faced the wall, and I started praying. I was like, Jesus, what? Like what? Seriously, you know? And so this guy, the other guy that was with us, went into the bathroom and started downloading, and there's no window to the outside. There's a vent in the door that comes to the room. And I don't know if I'm praying or if I'm yelling at God with my soul, but me and Jesus worked some stuff out on that trip, because that was, it was terrible.
Yeah, we went to Russia, Pastor Messer, myself, and anyway, another couple of folks. But I was staying with Pastor Messer at that time, on that trip. We got into Moscow. We had to fly out to a place called Ekaterinburg, and then we drove about an hour out into another area that was an asbest mining area. And so we got there about 2 a.m. Been traveling all day, and we're exhausted. So we get there, and they take us to this this building is like you got like floors, like a tenement building. So you go up there, and you get in to this door. You knock on the door, and this little kind of bald-headed, short guy named Yuri.
Of course,
used to be a tank driver in the Soviet. Now this would have been in 1998. So he opens the door, and he's got a big smile on it. He's a believer, and opens the door and invites us in. So we go in, Pastor and I go in, and it's like they've got borscht made. And I'm thinking, dude, I don't want to eat anything right now. I'm tired. So we sit down, we got to eat. And then we go over, and he pulls this big curtain back, and he says, like, there was a bed, there was like a double bed there. And I'm thinking, well, okay, Pastor and I, we can work this out. Well, anyway, so we go, and we're changing and getting ready for bed. And about that time, I turn around, and here's Yuri, and he's standing over there by the bed, and he drops his pants, and he's standing there in his whitey tighties and his big hairy back, and he lays down on the bed. And I looked at Pastor, and I said, dude, he's sleeping with us. And Pastor says, he says, you're in the middle. So I literally laid down there, and the pastor's got his back to me, and he's up against the wall, kind of like what you're saying. He's just laying there laughing. I can feel him laughing. And I laid there because, the sun comes up there like about 3:45 in the morning because it's so far north. And all of a sudden, the sun comes up, and I literally sat straight up and butt walked off the end of the bed and sat in the chair the rest of the night. But that's what they do. That's their life.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah, really crazy. So, I know a lot of Christians have a hard time understanding things like what I'm about to bring up, but they can't believe that pastors and leaders around the world would argue or fight with each other. And it's amazing to me because, they fight with their own wife, and then they pretend like, I just think it's funny. And then a lot of people don't know because they don't read history about these type of things. But the great evangelists that were alive at the same time, they argued and fought with each other constantly. Yeah. Some of them through the editorials in the newspaper wrote things about each other across town. So these people are like, we all got to be best friends. That's not true. That's not reality. So, and plus, if you're trying to get stuff done and passion's flowing, then you
got differences of opinion.
Yeah. And some people are stupid, especially when they're arguing with me. So, you remember first trip?
Oh yeah.
Myanmar.
Yep.
The guy who got us in there and was talking about holding hands with the old people and holding their hands.
What did they call him? What did they call him?
What was it?
The name called him Poo-Poo.
Poo-Poo, yeah.
Poo-Poo.
Because Poo-Poo was grandfather, and Pee-Pee was grandmother. It's true.
Yeah, no, I know. I remember.
And I remember when they said that, I was like, what the heck is going on here? But remember, he was such a big guy, too. He's like, we just hold their hand, and you guys need to be calm and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I was in there talking. We were all at lunch, and I was talking about we need to get these guys planting churches. We can't be doing this kind of stuff, sitting around here. And then he started attacking me. Do you remember that? He started saying to me, the Bible says that you're supposed to lead the sheep, and shepherds don't drive sheep. They lead sheep. And, and I said, yeah, that the Bible doesn't say that, actually. I said, that's an interpretation. Shepherds do whatever it takes to get the sheep going where they're going. And you're adding your Western philosophy to that because you want to be a baby. And he said, well, I know guys like you. You build the biggest churches, then you fail. And I said, well, I know guys like you. You always work for guys like me. So how about that? You remember that?
Yeah.
He was mad.
Oh, I do. No, I remember all that.
Everybody was sitting there.
I was there.
Yeah.
That's the reason it's just you and me sitting here now.
Yeah, exactly. He ain't in this meeting. And remember, everybody was kind of in shock.
It was on edge.
And then I told him, you're not my leader. You're not my friend. Your job was to get us here. We're now here. Mm-hmm. If you could have got the job done, you would have never brought us. You know, some things are true, Tom, but they don't have to be said.
Yeah, and at the same time, you know, he was, not in his.
He was protective.
He was protecting them, and I'm not saying that was right, because we weren't there to hurt anybody.
No, I wasn't.
No, but he wanted us to respond to everybody the way he did, and it's like if there was already one of him, they didn't need more of him.
Yeah, that's when I told him, I said, hey, these people are small, but they're adults. They have the Spirit of God inside them, and they have a responsibility here. And he was mad about that. You know, he didn't like it, and he told me, you're too offensive for these people. And I thought, you know what? I literally that day, my heart for missions was birthed at that table in that conversation. And I thought, I'm never going to go around the world and treat people like less.
Yeah.
I'm never going to go around there and require less of them. I like what Charles Finney said. He said, if I require less of you than what Scripture demands, I've made myself a pope and granted you an indulgence. Mm. And I made up my mind. It's their responsibility for their nation. Yeah. It's their responsibility.
I think, you know, when we go to places, and I mean, same thing here, though, same thing here in the States. Our goal and our job is to help bring the best out of people and help them to step up, not to justify why they're doing what they're doing or why they're not doing what they're not doing.
Equipping the saints to do the work of the ministry, right?
Yes.
Apostles, prophets, pastors, teachers, evangelists. For what?
Do the work of the ministry.
To train them, to equip them to do we weren't there to do the ministry.
Right.
We're there to equip them. And you're not going to equip them by holding their hand. Right. Look, after I go in there and tell them what the Bible says about them being lazy and sitting around and hiding, you can go hold their hand when they're crying after the word already blistered them. That's garbage.
You know, I think that, you know, it's like it's human nature. I mean, my grandkids, I got a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. And you know what they want to do? Everything for themselves.
Right.
They don't want you. I want to do it. No, I want to do it. And somehow, from the time they're little, people are little, especially they get older and older, and people do for them. And eventually they get to the point where they just expect everybody to do for them. But the church, I think for us as pastors and leaders, we have to draw out of them, expect.
Yeah.
Make a demand.
Yeah, it's a demand based on the word of God, what God expects from them.
Exactly. Because they have what it takes. They just need the opportunity.
They're not less than us.
No.
See, that guy taught all that, but didn't believe it. He taught it and treated them like children.
Yeah.
And I believed that they had greatness inside of them. Yeah. And then the main guy, I won't say his name just because, well, he's also in heaven. He died this last year, which was so mind-blowing. I remember he told me I was offensive, and then God gave me a different word, and I went and preached on rising up and fighting like one man, and God was going to deliver the kingdom. And I was fired up that day. And then when I walked out of there, he apologized to me. Because it's like, oh, wait, yeah, you're coming from it. And because he loved the kids. He loved the orphanage.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to motivate people to be church planners and give their life for the cause, right? And so when he saw that, he did apologize. We never became friends.
But we don't really have a lot of, we don't have enough time, if you know what I mean. We don't have enough time on these trips to get to know each other in depth. And so it's almost like when we go there, unless we go multiple times, which we did there.
We did, yeah.
But
and without him.
In the initial showing up there, it's almost like you just have to trust the Lord to bring the best out of everybody.
Right.
But it's like, we were all adults.
Right.
I just don't like going somewhere. I had a guy say one time to me, we're going to this place. Why don't you tag along? And I'm thinking, I'm never going to tag along.
I tagged along with you in Russia, but we'll
you
tell
know
that
what
story.
I mean.
Don't treat me like I don't have anything to offer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I know it probably wasn't meant that way, but in my heart, there's things that are offensive to me. And it's like, if you want me to go, if you want me to just go see, just say, hey, come and have a look. I will. If you want me to go and to teach or to preach, give me the opportunity to think it through and say, I think I can do that.
Right.
But as far as to go and just kind of hang around and come and watch what we do, I don't want to do that. I got things to do,
that's
man.
silly.
I go fishing. I go fishing down in Miami.
Right. With Doug.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so So that guy apologized.
Yes.
I walked out of there and about lost my mind in tears. And then the leader, who I was obviously offending, I was not offending, I'm being sarcastic, came up to me and asked if I could come and stay there and preach for 3 months every year. And I looked him straight dead in his eyes and I said, no way. He was like, what? And I said, dude, I will do my best to come here for a week once a year. There is no way I can stay here for 3 months. But we ended up becoming great friends. He came and stayed here. He stayed in my home. Yep. Matter of fact, he stayed in my home and my kids all slept in the room on the floor because he felt so lonely from the orphanage and they loved him so much. And the guy's gold, and I left him at my house for a week. And that same guy was worried that he wouldn't be okay at my house. I said, he is a grown man. He lives in Myanmar. He will be fine in America. And when I came home, that dude's wearing his lungi, his man skirt, and a wife beater with a Pepsi sitting on my couch watching soccer on my big screen TV. And he says, Kuchenta, you're home. Kuchenta. Remember, they call me Mr. Rich.
Yeah.
And we cracked up and he loved it and became a great friend, and a person that we got to do ministry with for a lot of years. But I think that, and I think this goes to parenting too. Discipleship, parenting, pastoring, missions. Never protect people from God. You can never, if you do that, you'll regret it the rest of your life. I trust my kids to the Lord.
That's easy to say, and I'm not saying you're trying to make it sound like it's easy. It's a challenge.
Yeah.
Because it's like we just have this father's heart, and whether it be with our kids, we have this father's heart that even comes out with the church or with other people in other places, our friends. We want to protect them, but the truth is God's working something out of them, not trying to break them. He's trying to work something out of them. But that doesn't happen.
And we don't love them more than God.
No. It's pressure.
Right.
It's pressure. And pressure is, it's there.
Yeah. And then I remember we were sitting at breakfast and I think Tim said, yeah, he's just really upset and, we should minister to him. I said, my church didn't save their hard-earned money to send me over here to minister to him. Let him cry his big head to sleep on his pillow. He can go home to his church. And so we never became friends. But what we did do, though, is he actually came here. I don't know if you knew that. He came to my church. He came to my church, and we sat down in my office and talked for about 45 minutes. And he apologized. I didn't. I wasn't sorry. And honestly, I'm not, it's not like I'm right. I was right. And he said that. But I told him, I said, I will tell you this. I respect you and I appreciate the ministry that you do with the orphans because it's necessary and I'm not called to do that. And I'm just not, I'll help. We'll help financially, but I don't know how to do that. Yeah. I'm not geared for that. And I said, I'm trying to do my part. Yeah. And he said, yeah, that's what I really wanted to come and tell you is I appreciate what you're doing. It's different than what I'm doing. And so we didn't become besties. It wasn't like something you're going to make a movie about, but we had peace and we got it. And he understood, where I was coming from.
There's different ministries in the church, whether it be children's, youth ministry. I mean, obviously our goal is the same, to bring the best out of them, but the way you go about it is different. The way you just go about it different. It's the exact same thing in other countries.
Yeah.
And like you said, I remember it seemed to me like Tim was very heart connected to those kids.
Yeah, that's right.
And he wanted to do whatever he could do to help them. And I thought, that's great. And of course, I'm thinking, because somebody needs to, because I love them, but I don't want to do, I don't really want to.
And the only ones that want to follow me around were the 4 troublemakers.
That's it.
You remember that?
Yes, which you attract.
Yeah, and the leader, she said, do you know that those 4 boys that keep hanging out with you, they're the troublemakers? And I said, oh, yeah? Like if I didn't know, right? And she said, yeah, do you think that it's interesting that they want to follow you around all the time? And I was like, well, hell yeah, they're world changers. What do you expect?
They're not intimidated.
And they would, when I would go to put my sandals on, they'd pull the strap on, they'd grab my bag, carry my bag, and they'd run and hold my hand and jump on my lap. And I remember when I came home, I had some pictures of them sitting on my lap and climbing all over me when I'm trying to talk to our friends, And my daughter said, hey, what are those kids doing sitting on your lap? A little jealous. She was small. I think she's 6 or 7. And I said, it was Becca. And I said to her, hey, Becca, they don't have dads. They don't have moms. And I said, so when I'm there, I'm just trying to be a dad to them, And she said, okay, when you're there, they can borrow you. That's okay. But that's how those kids were. Yeah. But it was such a great experience, and to be with the Burmese people. And
they're just like we are. They're just like we are, meaning you got some that are they're just radical. They're out there. They're just they're not afraid.
Yeah.
Other ones are very intimidated. I don't know if you remember the little girl who fell out of a tree
Yep.
and died.
Yep. That's right.
And they prayed for her, and of course God brought her back. And I remember
Not,
her.
of course, God brought her back. That's an amazing story.
Yeah.
She fell out of a tree and hit her head. Her head cracked and
Yes.
swelled up,
Yes.
and she died.
I know.
And the Lord raised her from the dead, Tom.
Yes, He did.
We weren't there, but that's
We weren't there, but
that's
we,
insane.
But she was there with us when we were there.
we know her. Yeah.
we know her. Katie. Her
Yeah.
name was Katie.
Yeah.
And but I'm just saying there was so many miracles that go on there. You got shy people. You got these people that are like, they almost seem like they're unruly, but you know what? They're just like us.
Yeah.
They're just like us. you
Yeah.
know?
They asked me, a Muslim got saved. Would you like to baptize him? I was like, that's not a real question. Yes, I want to baptize him. First Muslim I ever baptized was right there in Myanmar. It's so amazing.
I remember that.
Yeah, I
remember
cried that day.
Mhm.
Those
No,
things make me
maybe
cry.
that's what I remember about it.
Me crying being a baby.
Yeah. No, it was amazing. Such great memories and such great, looking back, I think that those were such formative years in my life as well, because that's when I began pastoring the church. And so I always saw missions from the standpoint of being in that office down there, meaning the assistant pastor.
Right.
And it was great. I love that. But when you're sitting in that chair and you're making decisions and you're organizing your finances and your time and sending teams.
And your vision.
Yeah. It's great. And it's like now we look back, and I could honestly say that we'll see people that we can't even imagine what we'll see in heaven.
Yeah, that's cool. I was thinking about, because you were talking about tagging along, you were going to Russia, and you asked me if I want to go to Russia. I said, nah, I'm called to Asia, man. I got to go to Asia. And he said, well, why don't you come check it out? And I said, you know what? Remember what I told you? I said, I'll go with you and carry your bags. I'm just going to go to be with you and to help out. I'm not going to Russia for no other reason. And part of the reason I wanted to go, and I think I told you, was everywhere I go, I feel like I'm called there. So I'm going to go to Russia and see if I feel that way.
Yeah.
And I got there and I didn't feel called there. Although I loved Russia and I loved the people that we met there very much. I didn't feel called there. But we went to Russia, and
I know.
You remember when we first went to the first restaurant that was in a little house, and I asked for a menu, and so they're translating, and they said, there's no menu. What do you want to eat? And I said, well, what do you have? And they said, what do you want? And I said, chicken. They said, okay, how would you like it cooked? I said, well, how do you prepare it? They said, however you want it. And I said, I'm not hungry. I don't want to eat. So I didn't eat. They gave me borscht. I ate that, and that's fine. I actually liked it. Borscht is good, It's not like the best thing in the world, but it's not. Like
edible.
People act like it's some bad thing. It's not bad. It's fine. And I ate borscht, and then later I hit up McDonald's. Yep, that's right. I don't really eat a lot of McDonald's, but I did there. I didn't mind it. But anyway, so we went there, and some great people. So the church is organized in Russia. A lot of people don't know, under 4 organizations. 3 that people register under, and they're required to. And it's not like charismatic. Remember, it was so mixed up, right? Now, I know you know this. I'm saying it for the listeners.
I don't remember it all
for
that
the
much,
listeners, for our Warriors and Wildmen tribe. But so they're under 3 main organizations. They have to register under those organizations. And the 4th organization is the underground church.
Right.
So 4 movements. And so we met with all 4 of the top leaders in 5 days, which was incredible. That, to me, still blows my mind.
I know. I remember that. That was
how could we sit down with those people?
Yeah. Who are we?
Yeah. And one of the guys said, oh, George Bush was the president. He said, oh, I just prayed with your president 2 weeks ago. And I was like, what are we doing meeting with these guys? Amazing. So I was in awe. I was happy to be there. We went to the meetings, had a great time at the meetings with these guys, and I was blown away. And I got in an argument with the guy who took us on the trip, right?
It's about par for the course.
Yeah.
But you
it
did.
Was due.
I do.
And what happened was, if I don't remember, they say the older that I get, the more clearly I remember things that didn't happen. But if my memory serves me correctly, this is how I say it. Correct me if I'm wrong. But we went to a meeting, very important, very powerful church leader, and we were talking about, I wasn't talking, this guy was talking about church planting and what he was pitching to them if they wanted to do it. Then he started talking about the church planting that they were already doing, using the AA, the Alcoholics Anonymous homes. Remember, they were turning those guys around and using them to plant churches everywhere. It was blowing my mind listening to these people's vision. Like, I was so inspired.
And alcoholism, it still is.
Yeah, rampant.
Bad,
Yeah. And so I was just sitting there listening, so amazed at what they were doing. And I was thinking the guy who's pitching the vision for church planting should be excited because they're church planting. And they're already doing it, right? And he wasn't that excited.
Mm-hmm.
But I asked, I said, and he was speaking in Russian with a translator. And I asked, could I please get a brochure? Because he had mentioned they had a brochure. And he told the girl to get some. And so they brought him and gave them to me. I said, thank you. And I sat there. And so after the meeting was over, I said to him in English, I said, hey, can I take a picture with you in front of the Russian map? And you just sent me that picture the other day. Yeah. And he said, of course. And we went over there and I told him that I would pray for him. And I was so happy. And I took a picture with him. And because I admired him and respected him, what he was doing. Like,
it's a big deal.
Yeah, what an overwhelming, like when he was talking about it, I was thinking, man, this is not my lane. Like this guy is just going full speed doing mission in his country about stuff that I don't even understand, you know? And he asked me, he said, will you come back? You know, will you work with us? And I said, no. And he said, what? And I said, I'm not called here. I said, man, I'll keep this picture and I'll remember to pray for you. And I said, but I'm called to Asia. And he said, hey, I really appreciate that. I said, why? And he said, everyone promises to come back and they don't. And I said, well, I'll probably come back someday. I hope to, but it's not a reality, you know? And so I left. And then when we got back, we were having lunch. And the guy who led the trip told me, if you said another word, I was going to kick you under the table. Remember that?
I do.
And I said, you kick me under the table, and I don't care where we're at. I'm going to come over the table, and I'm going to knock your teeth out. And that's when a giant Russian named Ivo said, brothers, brothers. And it got a little crazy, right?
Yeah, you know.
Was it like that?
Yeah. I mean, what I kind of took away from a lot of what happened was we went, and the guy that we were there with, the one that said he was going to kick you under the table, he was looking for people to get the resources so he could do his vision. He wanted us to be a part of what his vision was. And the thing is I never go any place looking to see what's your vision, how can I mean, I know what I feel like God's called us to do. And if I can connect with somebody that's doing it, I'm good.
Right.
But I don't need somebody to go in and to say, well, this is my vision. Oh, yeah, well, we're going to do your vision. And I think for him, obviously you were asking questions. He didn't want you to ask any questions. He didn't want you to in any of those, don't go there places. And he was very insecure.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen him a time or two since. I mean,
I saw him in the airport in Singapore. And I walked up to him and I said, hey, and I went to hug him and he like kind of stiff armed me. He's like, hey, mate, don't you remember the last time we saw each other, we were arguing? And I said, no. And I think that made him madder. Yeah. Like it literally made, and he said,
he didn't forget it.
He said, well, we were. I said, well, it's good to see you. How are you doing? He's like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And I kind of walked away. And I was like, sucks for you. But,
you know, I like that guy, but his insecurities, well, I know. You guys didn't get along. And I mean, I like him, but I can honestly tell you they didn't have a lot in common with him.
Yeah.
It just always seemed like his insecurity. I was in another place one time at a conference.
And people don't realize dealing with ministers, you deal with that a lot. People's insecurities.
Oh, man, all the time. And you know what's really a bummer is when you deal with that in leaders.
Yeah. Or in yourself. My thing is anytime I felt that, because like I was saying with that guy, it didn't happen so much with that guy in Russia, the leader in Russia, because that guy was so powerful. It's like you could just sit back and admire it. But I was around friends and stuff and that were so good at other things. Like you're so good at things that I'm not good at. That used to make me feel insecure. And then I realized, oh, we play our parts. And so I can easily admire what you're doing. And I also can learn from what you're doing. And if it's something that I need to do, then I can learn from that and apply it at my level. I don't have to be at your level.
No. And the thing is be comfortable in your own skin. You know, be comfortable in who you are. And I think that took me a long time. You know, Jack in Australia, man, I mean, him and I have been friends for a long, long time. I know when I go to Australia and I preach for him, it's almost like I'm thinking, why am I even here? I mean, you don't need me here. I mean, this guy is the preacher of preachers, but he loves me and he sees something in me. And his church,
that's relational, and what you have, he wants you to impart into his ministry.
Exactly. Yep. And I think that's the thing, really, if anybody can learn anything out of, these things that we go through, it's learn to be comfortable in who you are. You have something that's unique.
Yep.
You and I are different. Yeah. Very different. And I think the fact that I've accepted who I am and you've accepted who you are and we've accepted who each other are, it's like I don't expect you to be this, that, or the other. You just be you.
We pretty much know what we're going to get at this stage in the game. And there's another part that I think is important, and I have worked at this. I'm not trying to brag about this, the grace of God, but when I know that my emotions are incorrect, I confront that. I want to know, why am I feeling like this? It's not okay to have feelings that you don't understand. What's the root of this? Well, the root's not good. Am I insecure? Am I jealous? Whatever that is, I confronted that. Even as a young man, I was like, I refuse to live my life like this. And so when you have wrong thoughts or emotions about people, then we need to put that in check and like reel that stuff in if you want to be successful, because you're never going to be around successful people if you don't handle those things.
Exactly. You know, I mean, I would take it that probably you get supercharged.
Yeah.
I fight and have struggled with insecurity since I was a little boy. You know, I am way beyond where I used to be. Do I still struggle with that? Yeah, but not at all like I used to.
Right.
I'm just me. And I think that is the thing that everybody's got to find out who they are, and then begin to push back. You know, there's things that want to maybe overcharge you. There's things that want to pull me back and keep me hidden and, you know, intimidated. And it's like, man, you know, it's really not me anyway.
That's right.
It's us doing what God's called us to do.
Yes, when you do just like you said, it's the gospel has the power to change lives. Yes. And when we stay true to the gospel and the vision and the lane that God gave us, and we can work together with other people. And I find that's the easiest way to appreciate. I really, from my heart, decided that when I felt intimidated by someone, I would want to know why. And then I realized it's because there's something really great about them. And so what I did is I intentionally turned that into admiration and respect for either the gift or the gift and the development of the gift, you know, to do what they're doing. And I thought, man, what a valuable thing to have in the body of Christ. I'm so glad we have this person that does this thing, you know? And so I think it's great. And so, that guy, I had some problems with him and it didn't go good. And he wanted to, you know, kick me under the table. It's probably a bad idea, especially at that time. Now I'd probably crack up laughing. But back then, if he had kicked me over the table, right in that guy's office, I probably went right over the table. And then tried to tell me that I was disrespectful to the guy, and the guy was literally inviting me to come join him in the ministry. It's like, I'm not being and you know, I'm a strong personality, strong person, but I'm not disrespectful to people. I love those people.
But I can tell you right now, that guy that you're talking about, the one who's going to kick you, very insecure.
Yeah.
Very insecure. And so I guess maybe I can relate to maybe his struggle, because I have had that. But, you know, when I look at him and I can see insecurity, I'm thinking I must have come along somewhat, because I'm not there.
I have to tell you a funny story then. You're part of it. So we were staying together in a hotel room in Moscow. And so in Moscow, you told me, hey, go see if he's ready to go. I said, okay. So I went to his room, knocked on the door. He said, come in. I opened the door, and he's standing there in his little bikini underwear.
Mm-hmm. I remember.
And I was like, bro, you don't have any pants on. And he says, what's the matter, mate? You never seen a grown man in his underpants before? I said, well, I'm American, so don't stand there in your panties calling me mate. And so remember that? And so then I took his picture and I photoshopped it onto a Calvin Klein underwear model ad, and I sent it to you, emailed it to you, and I said, Tom, this is important. Open it. And you opened it, and your wife was standing there.
Yeah, how do you unsee that? You know,
yeah, you
come
can't.
on, man.
And so I believed in that very much. Another great story. So remember when we were taking the train from Moscow to St. Petersburg?
Yep.
And it's like 11 and a half hours or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something is long.
Yeah.
And it's overnight. So we get to go on the train, and it's me and you in a compartment, and the compartment has 4 beds. And this couple, young couple, he's a military guy, and we don't know them, obviously. And our other friends are staying in another. And Evo comes up and says, okay, give me your belt. You remember that?
Yeah, I do.
He said, give me your belt. So I give him a belt, and he loops it, and he twists it, puts it over my foot and over the door handle. And remember, he told us, that way, if somebody tries to come in your room, it'll wake you up. And I said,
why would they come in the room?
You know, me and you were like, what are you talking about? And he said, well, there's robbers on the train. And so if you wake up and they're in your room, just pretend to be asleep, because they'll stab you and they'll kill you. And he said, and if you're awake, just pretend you're asleep. Let them take your passport, all your money. It doesn't matter. Just don't move. And I said, oh, we don't have to worry about that because I'm not sleeping. You remember that?
Yeah. So, I do remember that.
It was terrifying.
I know.
So when we get ready to get on the train, we get on the train, and there was a little girl there taking our tickets, and she's wearing the square shoulder thing and the hat and all that. And it was hot. Remember, it was supposed to be cold, but it was hot. And so we go, You're asleep in there. That couple's asleep in there. And I'm sitting on a stool outside the door going, looking at the countryside. And it never really got all the way dark. Remember, the sun went down, but it didn't get all the way dark. And I started dozing off on that thing. And then I woke up a little bit and I looked down there and that chick has her hat and her coat off and she's wearing a sports bra. And I was like, oh my goodness, I was like, what's going on down there? And fall back asleep. And a little while later, I feel somebody tapping me on the shoulder and I wake up and she's standing there in her underwear and a sports bra. And she was beautiful too. And I was like, this is a setup from the devil. Devil trying to kill me. Something going on right here. I'm the devil trying to take me out. And I was like, no, I don't understand. And she was talking to me. And then another guy said, oh, she's asking if you have change because someone's trying to buy something. I said, I don't have change. And then I went inside and jumped in the bed.
I slept through all that. I remember you telling me about that, but I slept through all that. It just, the culture is so different.
Yeah.
Around the world. So many weird things that you think this is, I can't figure this out. But it's just what it is. It's a different culture.
Right.
And at the same time, you just never know.
You never know.
You just never know.
Yeah, and I was scared. So, and then also culturally, I went to McDonald's and no one there knows English, not a word, not a number, not a word. And I said, number 2. And they said, okay. And I said, number 2. They're like, they got it. And I'm pointing and they figure it out. And they give me my food and it's 2 number 2s. And so I actually got 2 meals and I ate them both.
Yeah. McDonald's is like the missionary's best friend.
Yeah, it's like a little taste of home.
Yeah.
And
I remember when we were in Thailand and we were staying in that really nice hotel before we went in for some reason. And I remember we were sitting downstairs drinking coffee that night before. And we went to bed, came down in the morning, and actually that guy, there was a couple of guys there. They were a little bit effeminate.
Yeah.
And I think they walked John up to his room.
Yeah.
Holding his hand.
Yes.
And it was like, I'm thinking, woo, bye, John. The next morning they showed up again. And they come down and they asked John, did you sleep? Or was it, did you sleep well? And then ask him, well, how was it? And I'm thinking, how was it?
Yeah, how was it good for you
was
last
it good
night?
for
That's
you?
what they said.
Oh, golly. And John was like, what are you saying right now?
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah, and I remember when we first got to Thailand, that's when I had earrings. That's the day I stopped wearing them, actually. And a guy said, oh, why do you wear earrings, a pastor there? And I said, I don't know. I like them, got my ears pierced. And he said, Christians in Thailand don't wear earrings. I said, well, this one does. I'm not from Thailand. And he said, well, earrings means you're immoral. And I said, well, I'm not immoral. He said, they mean you're homosexual. I literally pulled them out and put them in my pocket. That was a wrap.
Yeah. And it's rampant. Stuff there like that is rampant, and
Yeah.
you just don't know. But, man, it's crazy. There's been so many crazy, crazy times, and probably could just spend just literally, it's fun to tell those stories. It's fun to remember them. But, those are things that happen along the road of doing the important things.
Yeah.
The important things of connecting with people. People, Rich, and so do I, that have changed our lives.
Yeah.
And I believe to whatever degree we've had the privilege of them investing in them and seeing their lives changed. And we just do our part. They do their part. We do our part. And I like what you said. They're not children.
No.
They're not less than people. They are men and women of God.
Yeah.
They just need someone to believe in them. And I think that's the privilege. When we first went to Burma, I remember they were so desperate for us to remember their names. They were writing their names down and wanting a picture and all. And I remember when we were getting ready to leave, and we said something about, how you do, hey, come and see us. Somebody said that, probably I did. And they said, what do you mean? It's like, well, it would be easier for us to go to the moon than it would be to go to America.
Yeah, they can't get to America.
Yeah, they can't get to
They can't
America.
even leave their country.
Yeah, but because, I'm not blowing America, I'm just saying people that live in prosperous countries, when they go to these places, Christians I'm talking about, and we hold the power to really speak into people's lives.
Yeah.
And to when we pray for them, it makes a massive difference. And it's a great opportunity.
Yeah.
This has been a great, to this point in my life, it's been a great opportunity to go with you, to go
Yeah, I
hang
had a
out
lot
and
of
to
fun
see a
with
lot
you.
of things. And
Yeah, thank you so much for investing in me and inviting me, allowing me to be at the conference. and being patient with me when I was a young man trying to figure it out, and being patient with me when I'm an old grumpy man too.
Well,
So
I like your fire. I like your fire, Rich, and I like the you're just who you are. And I think that God has more amazing things for us to do and
Yeah.
to be a part of, and hopefully together down the
Yeah,
road
that's
doing
right.
some more things.
Absolutely. And I want to encourage the Warriors and Wildmen listeners, get involved in mission. If you get a chance to go somewhere, go and see the people, not so you can just say, oh, look how poor they are, but you can look and see how incredible that they are, that they're made in the image of God, and believe the Bible says that God has placed eternity in their heart. And all of those people are longing for the Lord, even if they don't know. And so it's such a great privilege to be able to go and share the gospel and to love people around the world. Get involved with good missions organizations, help support them, because missions doesn't happen for free. It takes money. And I always tell people this, remember, when you're giving to missions, it's doing stuff overseas, especially like where we work, Southeast Asia and some different places in Africa. Your money is multiplied when it goes there because of the strength of the U.S. dollar. It might not always be like that, but for right now it is. And so your money's multiplied. So, make a difference. Make a difference. I was going to say we're not trying to get your money, but I kind of am, not for us, but for the kingdom, and for invest in somebody that's doing mission and make a difference. You'll be blessed, and it's a great legacy for your kids to teach your kids that stuff. And so thank you, Tom, for coming and sharing with us, and you're a great friend. I love you, man, your family and your church. And Warriors and Wildmen, go to warriorsandwildmen.com, subscribe. It's free. We'll send you a couple emails a week, let you know what's happening, keep you posted. If you want to also support the ministry, go to the War Chest, tax deductible. We'll give you information on that when you send your gift. For those that are supporting, we appreciate you guys so much. God bless you guys. Warriors and Wildmen out.